Good evening and welcome to Economically Empowering Our Communities with Socrates, Garrett, and Marcus Wallace. We're bringing this show to you because the issues are so serious that we take out of our schedule, the time out of our schedule each and every week to come before you and present our case in the hopes that somebody out there is listening, that's one of our viewers will say, we got to take a serious look at what's going on with economics in Jackson, Mississippi, and across the entire state of Mississippi for that matter. So if you're watching us on Facebook, then send us stars, share this program with your friends and families, subscribe to the program. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the notification button, share the program with your friends and family, subscribe. Now, you can find this show on anywhere you're getting your streaming platforms from. We're on Twitch, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and many, many more. So we're being seen in over 139 countries all across the world. A Black-owned and operated broadcast studio right here in Jackson, Mississippi, trying to make a difference, trying to get you to understand the plight when 20% of the population in Jackson, Mississippi lives below the poverty level. That's 20% that live below the poverty level. And the only way we're going to change that is to build a strong business class. We can't go to the government with our hands out, increasing the amount of SNAP benefits and WIC benefits. We have to build our own economy. The same way blacks did it in the past in Wall Street Journal, where we had Black Wall Street, for example, where blacks were demonstrating and showcasing that they understand how to build an economy. And we've had some mighty proud leaders and mighty large footprints to fill when we go back and we think about Coleman Young and we think about the mayor in Atlanta, and we think about the mayor in Chicago, all of these individuals, and the mayor in Jackson, Mississippi, all of these individuals showed us the way. They said, this is the footprint, this is the blueprint that you need to follow to build a strong Black business class. Now, Marcus, many people don't understand why it is important that we build a strong business class. Can you share with me?
Well, first of all, good evening to the listening audience. And I tell you, the background with the flames in it is perfect today, as hot as it's been. And I guess we could say this is the summer edition without short sleeve shirts on.
That's right. That's right.
But the business class is very important. I agree with everything you've said. One of the reasons why business class is so important to keep the business class vibrant is, so we can put back in the communities. These schools, like you said, we can't expect for the government to, wait on the government for funding and things like that. But if you keep your business community vibrant, it's, it's things like that help us help the schools. Just this past week alone, we've done a couple of things, in the schools as they prepare to go back into the classrooms. And, it takes money to do that. And in order for us to provide those resources, we have to have opportunities. And so, I've never been one, you hear a lot of people throughout the years that have gotten frustrated and decided that, to leave and move. But I've never been one that wanted to move. I always wanted to go out and get it and bring it back here because from that standpoint, Socrates, I think Jackson is a hidden gem. There's so much that we don't have here that if you go back out and get it and bring it back, that was one of the successes of me being a sports agent. There's not a lot of sports agents here in the state of Mississippi, and we have a plethora of talent coming out of this state. And so the way that we can keep these resources and all this money that these kids are making now back in, to keep into the state of Mississippi, we gotta, have, agents and managers who encourage them to bring it back home, or when opportunities come up. I've told you a couple of weeks ago, there's no reason why some of these athletes or business people in this community shouldn't have bought the Hilton Hotel on the county line. I don't know exactly who purchased it yet. I hope and pray that it was African American. I just believe a landmark like that should be owned by African Americans in a majority African American city.
Well, you're right, and we're living in the blackest city in America. Now, Jackson, Mississippi is the blackest city in America. The state of Mississippi has the highest concentration of African Americans of any other state. We have more Black elected officials than any other state, and yet Mississippi remains on the bottom. And so you would think that that's progress, and you would think that we would be talking about how well Blacks are doing in an area where there's a great deal of concentration of Black talent and Black wealth, whether it's athletes or whether it's business people or whatever. You would think that this ought to be the showcase on how you do this.
Yeah, when you just said a few minutes ago, we're the blackest city in America, I was about to ask you why we don't recognize that. Why Jacksonians don't recognize we the blackest city in America. I just don't get it. I don't get it why it's such a hard sell every day for us to have majority Black leadership in all levels, just about levels of government. Even on the state side, we don't have a majority, but we got quite a few. I think about 42 African Americans of their voices that could really make some noise if they came together. We got majority Black superintendents. We got Black mayors everywhere, but yet these opportunities that come up, our phones don't ring like they should. I saw an article, a segment on the news. I think it was today or yesterday, where the city is about to spend $24 million on paving streets, and I think $3 million of that is going to be cleaning out creeks and ditches. Have you gotten the call?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. So somebody's Rolodex. Somebody needs to update their Rolodex. And I told you last week, I've already spoken to two other veteran contractors here in the city, Frank Dixon and Joe Collins, and they will be coming on the show with us, because I want the listening audience to know that we're not just up here whining and complaining. We want to bring some other people who actually been in this fight for a long time as well, and can share their experiences also.
Yeah, I don't think we're complaining at all. I think that the reality of the matter is that somebody has to ring the bell. That somebody has to bail the cat. Somebody has to take the bullet and take the heat in order that others will be able to do better. If we see a deficiency, which we have identified, then that has to be spoken about. That has to be put out there in a way where our local elected officials, our state elected officials, and our federal guys can see that we got a problem. You can't sit silent. Martin Luther King said in the Birmingham jail that it's not the bad actions of the Klan that disturbs me, it's the appalling silence of good people. And so what we have now is we don't have enough people speaking out. There are more and more speaking out each and every day because we're beginning to feel the pain in ways that we haven't felt in a long, long time. The economy is softer, is getting worse for African Americans in Mississippi. Now, Mississippi as a state may be enjoying some significant economic wins with major plants trying to move into our state, but African American community in the second congressional district, all the way down, is suffering more now than I can remember at any other time. Marcus, you know about the good old days, and those were the days when Black folk were rolling and the opportunities were there. You was visible. Young folk could see that they wanted to be like Marcus Wallace. They wanted to be like Socrates, Garrett, because they could see how we were rolling. And now today, they don't have as many role models like we did. And we had your father and my father, and we had Cornelius Turner, and we had all of those people that came before us that served as role models. But what do they see now, Marcus?
Well, and one thing I can definitely tell you that, in my opinion, I think that's missing, from the whole entire landscape, not just pointing fingers at a mayor or supervisors, but just politics in general. We're missing a business person. A lot of the individuals in leadership, they're good people. They may be good attorneys or people who, know the legislative part of things, but the actual business savviness, sauce is what I call it. We're missing that.
Yeah.
We're missing that. Give you a prime example. I think it was just today. They made an announcement saying that it was free admission to the zoo because of a power outage. Now, first of all, darn well nobody's gonna go over to the zoo hot as it is right now. The animals probably not going to come out and even acknowledge the visitors. Second of all, I don't understand why they continue to bleed, meaning spend funds on something that's just not going to. I don't care if you're giving away giraffe meat over there free. You understand? People are not going to go to the zoo. The era of the zoo on Capitol Street is over. And a person that with business savviness and sauce understands that. They talk about this $20-some million deficit. I'm willing to bet whatever anybody wants to bet that if you put the zoo in the right location where it benefits Mississippians all across this state and out of town visitors, it will knock that deficit in half. Mm-hmm. But we do not have a zoo that's going to attract. You can spend $100 million on Capitol Street. People are not going to go over there, and I don't understand why. That's such a hard thing to understand, convince people of. I have to take my hat off to Mayor Toby down in Hattiesburg. The zoo and that water park that has brought a huge economic impact to the city of Hattiesburg. And I would be on the phone talking with him or going down to meet with him to see exactly what is it that they've done to draw that type of thing. We got 100-acre zoo over here, which we don't necessarily need a 100-acre zoo anymore. I think Hattiesburg Zoo may be 30 acres, if I'm not mistaken. But it just, we got to start doing things that make sense.
And it's got to make CENTS as well as SENSE.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
we gotta always focus on the economy, because the economics is what's going to save us. I mean, salvation is important, but the economics are just as important. And we got to understand the economy. I don't think our leaders statewide really understand the economy and why it was created in the first place. I often say that the economy was created by commerce. Businesses created the government and to control the economy. And so what we got to do is we got to understand that those dollars must flow back into the communities on which they are coming from. We see too many out of state businesses in our communities.
Absolutely.
We see too many non-residents folk working in our streets. We cannot build something if at the same time everybody's taking all of your resources out the back door and taking it somewhere else. We got to close ranks. We got to go like Bear Bryant did back in the early days of Alabama. We got to close practice. We got to build a wall around the city of Jackson and around Hinds County until we can get this fixed. I often said that we need a state of emergency. When African Americans get less than 1% of purchases out of $5 billion, they only get $40 million. That's a state of emergency, because that means that that community is going to be poor and undeveloped. And when you do that, you're going to get sick people and high crime, bad schools and bad streets. You got to understand that as leaders. So we need a state of emergency, and we need to sit down and suspend the purchasing laws, just like we did for Ted Hennepin with the Water Authority. Suspend the purchasing laws. Let's build our base. Let's build a capable business capable of taking care of our needs. We don't need to outsource garbage collection.
Right.
We don't need to outsource the management of our wastewater plants. We don't need to outsource those things. Our people need to be taken care of themselves. We created the trash. We ought to be able to pick it up.
Absolutely. And I'm a marketing major, so I don't harbor a lot on the whatnots or what we don't have. For instance, it's nothing we can do about businesses leaving that have left Jackson and went right across over to Ridgeland or whatever. There's nothing we can do about what has happened. Okay, but I harbor on the zoo a whole lot because, to me, the zoo is something. The zoo and a aquarium, for instance, those are two things that would those people that have left and went to Ridgeland, or that are going to go spend their money at the restaurants and the Top Golfs and things that are going. Those are the same people that you can draw back into Jackson with the zoo and the aquarium. So, I look at ways to be creative, how to draw other people back in there, because guess what? If you have a zoo where people traveling to come to, or an aquarium, guess what? Cracker Barrel will come back into the city because that's a family restaurant. And, when people leave the zoo, they're looking for somewhere that the family can go at an affordable price. So, I just think we should get a little more creative on what we do have, the resources we do have, and the things that we can do to generate revenue. Another one, moving the stadium to the Metro Center area. Clearly, that's something that will totally redevelop West and South Jackson. It would give UMMC what they need over there, with the existing property. But moving the stadium over to that area, it opens up more than just for the campus itself. You're talking about Highway 80 corridor, South and West Jackson, property values will go up. It's just one of those three birds and one stone deal that will make Jackson a lot better than what it is.
Well, and then we got to understand some strategies as well. Now, I want to go back to the basics of what opportunities our governments have. The state of Mississippi does not have a set aside provision for minority contractors. It's time that they implement that. It is time that our legislators over there, the African American legislators, introduce bills, introduce set-aside legislation each and every year. It is time that we have that. They have it in other places. It's worked extremely well. Even President Bush understood the value and the requirements to pay special attention to the underserved in our country. And so he created the 8A program.
Mhm.
And a lot of businesses that were in the 8A program have done extremely well and have moved on and become major economic engines in the community. So we got to talk about policies and procedures that will allow us to build a business class. Now, our city needs to have a strong EBO department.
Absolutely.
Equal Business Opportunity Department. It too should have done the disparity study to try and get the set-aside language for the city of Jackson. But short of that, we ought to have a strong EBO department. Marcus, you remember when we had one?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if we still had EBO policy in place, this 24 million that we were just talking about, we wouldn't have to worry about if our phone rung or not, because the personnel with the city, county, or whoever would be on the phone calling, minority or African American businesses to let them know about these opportunities. Or there back then there was even outreach meetings, where we talked about, and it's not. It's nothing wrong with that at all. This DEI and all this stuff. I don't see what the problem was when it was basically simply saying that whatever comes across the desk, we need to make sure all races of people, play a part of it. And that has truly helped a lot of folks. The young Asian lady, QAnon. QAnon has done extremely well because of the set-asides. And even during that time, we didn't have a problem with her.
No.
With her getting opportunities. Like I said, it's not. I know the African American people that I've been in the rooms with. We've never had a problem with people getting a share of the pie.
No.
When you even look at those numbers, the 5 million to 95%, we don't have a problem with Caucasians having the majority of the percentage. All we're saying is we want a nice share, and we want to see progress every year of that share. Am I?
Oh, you're right on point. You're right on point. When you come into office, you ought to identify where things are today. When I came in here, and my promise to you is that when I leave office, there will be significant improvement.
Leave it better than it was when I came.
We're gonna leave it better than I found it. And so that ought to be every elected official's motto. When they preach their funeral, they ought to say that things are better because they were here.
Well, that was definitely my motto, being mayor of Edwards, and I think that my good Edwards people will attest to that.
Wonderful.
That I definitely left Edwards better than it was when I came. In any political position that I hold, that definitely would be my goal. One of my things, especially being in politics, I never worry about the next term. See, and I think that's another problem that politicians have, and which is another reason why I think judges should be appointed instead of voted in, because a lot of them worry about the next term.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do things right the term that I'm in, and if you vote me back in, good. If you don't, but I'm going to walk away knowing that I made it better than it was when I left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, Marcus, the state law provides provisions that will allow government to do some of the things that we're talking about. Now, Marcus, we all know that a professional service contract can be awarded to an individual based upon weighted guidelines. It's not the lowest and best bid.
Right.
So all of the engineers, architects, the legal firms should benefit from the fact that a city can request an RFP or sometimes an RFQ, a request for qualifications only. Just send me your qualifications. We can select someone that we need to do our engineering studies, our design work, etc. So all architects and engineers that are African American, wherever they are in the world, they should be trying to get to Jackson, Mississippi, because they know that we have the legal remedies to end the discrimination in that discipline. And so, but that's not happening.
No.
And then we know that any purchases under $50,000, and some say $75,000, you can award to buy 2 telephone calls, Marcus.
Absolutely.
You don't have to advertise. You don't have to bid. You can pick up the phone and call whom you know, your church member, whoever's in business in your community. You can pick up the phone and call and say, I would like a proposal from you to, or even in that category, I would like to buy these items from you.
So, with you saying that, questions that come up in my mind is, one, do our public officials really know that process? Number two, if you do know it, and when you see these projects happening or coming out for requests or bid or whatever, and you don't see African American companies a part of it, why aren't you raising hell about it? Good hell, not being a drama king or queen, but just raising your voice a little bit, asking the question, where the black? They thought I was crazy in Edwards, because whenever a project came out, the first thing that I asked was, who are African Americans that's on this project or looking at this project? Then I would come back and say, who from Edwards looking at this project? Because I think locally, and I preach locally all the time, that's how you empower your community. How we grow Edwards, is to make sure businesses from Edwards that was getting opportunities as well. And so, when we selecting or voting for these candidates from now on, we need to look at those type things in a person. Stop voting for people like beauty and bow contest. Start voting for people who are going to speak up, who are going to stand up, and who are going to make sure those percentages increase. If I become, another elected official, I want to communicate with the people and let them know we got 1% businesses in local businesses getting opportunities now. It's my goal the next quarter, but it's 1% to be 5%, and I think that's another problem we have. Our public officials don't communicate with the people like they should. If you communicate, then I think it cuts down on a lot of confusion, and they'll understand things a lot more. People don't understand when they're paying taxes and the air conditioning go out in the library on Mega Evans, and it take months and months to get fixed. The math don't math when it's like that.
And so, Marcus, we're up against a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the economies that we should be controlling. For example, every city that's majority African American has a district. In Memphis, Tennessee, it may be Beale Street. In New Orleans, it may be Bourbon. In Jackson, it's Ferris Street. We're going to talk about why these areas are not being controlled by Black folk and are not benefiting the Black community. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Socrates Garrett ENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett ENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.grade rock materials. recycled aggregates, and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. By using Socrates Garrett ENT.com's crushed concrete products, anyone from homeowners to general contractors can help reduce landfilled concrete waste, conserve natural resources, and gain significant economic savings on materials and disposal costs. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
We're back. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi, my hometown. I call Mississippi a town because we know everybody in Mississippi. We either neighbors or we're closely related. Now, Mississippi has less than 3 million people in the entire state of Mississippi. That means I can drive for days and not see anybody, not speak to a single soul. You know, in Chicago, they have more than 6 million people. And every time I'm there, I'm nervous because I'm bumping into somebody, Marcus. You can't turn around without you looking at somebody. But here you can go for days and days. We are blessed with the best climate. We are blessed with waterways. The mighty Pearl River flows right down through our city. And Marcus, speaking of the Pearl River, we're the only city that has not harnessed the power of the river that's flowing down through its very city limits. Why is that?
You know, again, another head scratcher. You know, we have so many untapped resources that we have not tapped into here as it relates to this city. And you know, I scratch my head because I'm trying to figure out, and the only thing I always arrive at is, like I said, we need some people in these leadership positions who have a serious business background. I really believe that, you know, because we're not gonna, you know, if you don't, I'm gonna go to the streets with you a little bit. If you don't know how to throw a toothpick in a haystack, you know, if you don't know how to throw a toothpick into a haystack to create a mound, we not, meaning if you don't know how to make money, Jackson is never gonna, you know, it's never gonna happen. I mean, and we see certain things on a regular basis where somebody just doesn't understand the economics of how to generate the dollar and circulate the dollars here in the city of Jackson.
And we got to talk about it, and we got to help our people understand that, you know, the Ferry Street district is another one.
Absolutely.
Now, when you're in Memphis, Tennessee, and you on Beale Street, you can see the economics of that enterprise. You can see it happening. When you go to New Orleans and you're on Bourbon Street, you can see the dollars flowing.
You know what else I also see?
What?
I see a lot of Jacksonians on Beale Street and Bourbon Street who complain about downtown Jackson being an entertainment district. I don't understand that.
Right. Well, I don't understand it either. and so, you know, it can be done, but when you look at Nashville, Tennessee right now today.
I got to get to Nashville. I've heard in the last 2 weeks, I've heard at least 10 people hype up Nashville saying that it is amazing what Nashville is now. I've also heard Huntsville is not half stepping either. So I got to get to Nashville to see, you know, the new Nashville.
In Huntsville, Alabama, you're right on. And John Meredith, who was president of the city council over in Huntsville, Alabama. We salute you, sir. That's James Meredith's son.
Okay.
That's president of the city council in Huntsville, Alabama. But here, back to Ferry Street, Marcus, we don't seem to know how to make that work. A lot of folk have tried, but we have fallen short. And when you drive down through there, it is no economy at all, Marcus, not compared to Bill and Bourbon Street. And Mississippi is the birthplace of the blues.
You know, it's almost like, you know, the church trustees. You know, you have a group just about in every church. I used to be the chairman of trustee board for Anderson for about 4 years back when it was huge. But just about every trustee board you're gonna have individuals who you know, they pump for, you know, moving the church and growing and doing the new developments. Then you're gonna have a few over here that's stuck in time, don't want to move. And it's almost like that's what the political landscape is. You know, you got some who see the vision and want to, you know, hey, let's go. But you got some, man. I mean, they holding that wagon.
And they holding it back.
They holding that wagon, man.
And Jackson and Mississippi in particular has missed so many opportunities to improve the quality of life for its citizens. Delta Airlines, for example, wanted to move its headquarters to Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh my God!
Well, they were down there in Monroe, but they couldn't come to Jackson. So they went to Atlanta, Georgia. And look at it now, if we had the international airport there that they have in Atlanta, and what could be done.
Yeah, you know who I really feel sorry for? I feel sorry for the children in our community, man. You know, they don't have nothing, zoo, they don't have a water park, nothing. I mean, we had those things growing up, and you know, I often, you know, I don't take up for, you know, kids that are always in trouble. But, you know, I often ask the question, what do you all expect the children to do when you don't have anything for them to exhaust all that energy? You just want them to go to school, go home, and play on video games or none of that. You know, I grew up in an era where they put the water jug in the window and you had to go outside that morning and you don't come back in the house till 4 o'clock or whatever, you know, and you got all that sun and that energy. By the time you came in, you ready to take a bath and watch a little TV and go to bed. But I really feel sorry for the children because I just feel like we're not doing them a good service of making sure that children be children. You know what I'm saying?
And we had role models to watch that were business people that were rolling. I mean, Jerry Owens was a pioneer. I mean, he developed the whole Bailey Avenue corridor. Marcus, I think they had 3 or 4 businesses there.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, he instilled, you know, a lot of work habits in me. And, you know, his thing, I got a chance to see everything Jerry did was A1 class. You know, you work hard, but you know, hey, when you make your little money, it's okay to go to steak and ale. You know, don't you know he McDonald's. You know, hey, no, go treat yourself to a ribeye.
Yeah.
You know, those type things, and the same thing I've done with my son over the years. You know, I've you know, instilled in him to work hard. I never forget when his first day coming to work at the construction company. He got up that morning, put on casual clothes. You know, I said, what you doing? He said, I'm getting dressed so we can go to the office. I said, no, we're not going to the office. I sent him out there on that asphalt crew, and he felt that 360-degree asphalt. But guess what? That Friday when he got that check, I haven't had to worry about him since. He is a workhorse, and I told him you'll go a long way in life if you willing to work hard to earn some money.
And you saw that, and you taught that, and that's the scenario that has to be implemented. We have to show these children, you know, how to work hard, and then we have to show them what the rewards are for that. And so we don't see enough of that. The kids don't have enough people to look up to. No blacks own the convenience stores in our community.
Right.
The gas stations. They're not. They may be bearing one another now. But there was one while when I thought that we had lost ground in the funeral home business, but I think that's coming back out.
You know, I think that's the #1 business right now. The funeral directors are really doing well. You know, unfortunately, you know, hate all these deaths happening, but man, I tell you, Damien over at Jackson Memorial has built a powerhouse. West Haven is huge. My home folks out in South Willis and Son, you know, we got some real good African American funeral homes that we can be proud of here in the city.
Well, let's talk about then what we have. Then let's go to architects and engineers. I mean, do we have any quality firms?
We got some quality firms. You know, William McElroy, architect, Southern University graduate. He's done a lot of projects around here, but I think lately he's had to get on the road as well. I think he's done a lot of stuff at Southern down in Baton Rouge. And, you know, that's the only other thing that I don't like. A lot of the talent that's here has really had to hit the road. You know, I've been having to do it. I know you've had to do it. SOL Engineering, which is another top African-American engineering firm, Crown Engineering, Calvin Dean, you know, IMS, I think they do well still around here. But you know, the community needs to see more African-American companies progressing, you know, and the way we do that is when you afford us opportunities, we are able to really reach back out in the communities. And, you know, I tell you why, not only from my father, where I learned a lot of that. I, you know, remember back in the day, like for instance, McLean Auto Body Shop.
Yeah.
Mr. McLean did a lot. Richard Porter, Porter's Insurance, did a lot for Jackson State. And I saw those guys put back into the community. But what I also saw was I saw Black businesses really thriving back then, you know, and everybody, you know, was basically, you know, we sold a car. Jerry told them, go down to Porter's and get your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just automatically rolled off your tongue,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when those things back then happened or whatever. And, you know, I remember Earl Washington with, what was that? Capital City. Right. See, I was young, but man, I was watching all of that. And those are the things that really kind of helped and shaped and molded me to want to be a businessman here in the city of Jackson.
And then the list goes on and on and on. We shout out to Matt Thomas over there, who had an insurance agency, one of the very first that did a tremendous amount of good work in this town. You know, Cornelius Turner that built a 6-story building downtown Jackson that's vacant today. I don't have no idea why that building is vacant.
The entire building is vacant?
Pretty much the entire building.
Wow.
And so the state agencies are always looking for some place to go, but there's not an agency in that building. And it could be that it's African-American owned because the location is solid. It's right across from the federal building and the bankruptcy courts and things of that nature.
That also may not be a bad building for Jackson State to look at from housing standpoint.
Oh, it would be an excellent idea for them to look at that. They have traditionally, though, leased hotels from chains.
Right.
And again, that's not focusing on growing your own economy.
Exactly.
You know, and we got to be intentional about that, and we can't be ashamed about that. We got to say, given every opportunity to grow and build and support an African-American owned local business, I'm taking that shot.
That's right.
I'm taking that shot. And we talked about professional service contracts, and we talked about the kind of things that you don't have to bid about. But now we're talking about construction. Construction is a different animal. Their state law requires you to bid on all construction contracts. But Marcus, under Harvey Johnson's administration, it was mandatory that if it was over $10 million, it was a mandatory joint venture requirement.
Right, absolutely. And that's I was going to add to, being a former mayor, that's another thing that we need our delegation to look at. Is you don't have to go with what that amount is. You have the power to break it down where your people can reach out and grab it. These projects, just because something is estimated value of 20 million doesn't mean that you got to let it out as a $20 million project.
Right. And if you do, the term is called lowest and best. Now, what does and best mean, Marcus?
Well, in my opinion, the lowest and best means, the lowest is not always the best. First of all, the numbers may be low, but the quality and basically the scope may not be the best scope for that job under that low amount. It may be a higher amount. And so, you don't always look for the lowest bid.
Right. And another way of saying it and putting it is that if you have two majority firms that have bidded equal dollars on a $10 million project, then the second criteria is got to be, where is the minority involvement or the minority participation levels? And the firm that has the greatest participation becomes the lowest and best.
Well, we first got to get some leaders to even ask the question that you asked. What did you just say? Where is the minority part? We got to first get some people willing to ask that question, because it seems like there's fear when that subject comes up.
Right.
It seems like that there's fear when that comes up, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, but that's one of the reasons why I've never worried about the next term.
Right.
Because I'm not going to leave the room without asking them questions.
Right. And so every contract that's awarded by any municipality, really, whether it is majority Black or not, because white folk have to own up to the fact that Mississippi has a history of denying opportunities for African Americans. And at some point in time, we got to find ways to correct that. And the only way we can do that now is to say that those that are willing to put in the work, those that are willing to make the effort, we're going to make certain that they get opportunities to do so.
And the other thing, I want to definitely thank the Caucasian guests that we've had, because one thing we're trying to do here on this podcast show is we're not pointing fingers at anybody. We're strictly coming from stats and numbers, but we're also trying to have a diverse conversation as to how do we resolve this, I would say. And I really appreciate, Mr. Cole, Ricky Cole. I appreciate Oscar Miskelly and those who have also committed to come, in the weeks to come. And any other guests that can help us with that, we would be glad to have you. But we want to have a diverse solution to this, because again, it's one Mississippi. It's not a one Jackson. A white Jackson or Black Jackson. It's not a white Hinds County, a Black Hinds County. It's not a white Mississippi or Black Mississippi. It's a one Jackson, one Hinds, and a one state of Mississippi.
It is that, and we got to focus on bringing us together, but we cannot come together if $40 million out of $5 billion is our share of the economic expenditures. Now you see it out there, our viewing audience that's scrolling on the screen. $5,519,862,146 is what the state of Mississippi spends for contract expenditures. White men get 95.9%. The total to minorities is $220,067,939. $181,621,192 go to white women as minorities. That's 3.3%. only 40,467,000 go to Black folks and Asians and others, and that's 0.73%. That's less than 1%. Now, we got to come together, but we can't come together if all of the opportunities are on one side of the track. We got to have people that understand that that's morally wrong, that's financially wrong, that it's going to bankrupt our entire state. Because if the reason Mississippi is poor and on the bottom is because we are holding others down as opposed to helping everybody up. And so until we have the type of leadership that says we're going to build a stronger economy in Mississippi and everybody is going to do well. I remember Governor Cliff Finch, when he ran for governor, he drove a tractor to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Just to protest and just to demonstrate that he was for Mississippians. And he said, I want a chicken in everybody's pot. I want a chicken in everybody's pot. We haven't heard a governor say anything like that since Governor Finch. And so it's time for white men and white women to say, hey, we get it. We hear you. There is something wrong with this picture. There is something we can do and we will do to correct this disparity.
You know, I'm very interested in this panel discussion that we talked about. Do you think that's something we should try to put together like soon, or do we need to wait until they get back in session? But I'm very interested in putting that together. I think that it's time for our public officials, Black and white, to answer some of these questions, and so we can start trying to put together some real solutions.
Yeah, I think we have to have the dialogue. We have to get everybody in the room that's willing, that's concerned, like you and I are concerned. And we have to have that dialogue and give them an opportunity to express their thoughts, or to say why the hell we don't think anything ought to change. I mean, we got to put it on the table. You can't solve the problem until you identify it and then put it on the table for everybody to discuss. And there's a lot of this division and disagreement that's going on in our state, inside the Black community, inside the state of Mississippi, inside the white community, inside the nation. America is divided like never before. They're divided on what we ought to be doing for the economy. They are divided in terms of who they want to lead, Democrats or Republicans, and what is the difference in those two organizations. Marcus, as a business person, I'm not sure I see a lot of difference. And so and I don't want to offend my good guy out there, Congressman Thompson. I see what you're doing as a Democrat, and I applaud you, and I appreciate what you're doing. But on the global scale, Marcus, even when Biden was president, I couldn't feel the economy shifting in the African-American communities. Now, maybe it just didn't reach my level. You know, maybe it did for shakers and movers in New York and in California and Chicago, but down here in Mississippi, there wasn't a ripple in the water.
Well, I think part of that probably could part of that is because of the local folks. That's another thing that I think we got to really grab and really get, you know, the bolts, the nuts and bolts tightened on. True enough, a lot goes on the federal level and in DC, but what really affects us right now is what happens locally. If people gotta understand, that's why we need folks really voting. People gotta understand how strong a mayor is. You with me?
I hear you.
You know, you gotta understand how strong a mayor is. A mayor can really make his local economy jump if he play the right music. You know, I went to an event this past weekend, this summer breeze that the Omegas have. This is their 4th year. And they bring out, I think it may have been 700 people at this past weekend, but you're talking about 700 grown professional folks who don't normally get out because, they're pretty much afraid to go to other places. But when you got an event that you bringing out the middle class, I would say, and they're enjoying themselves and it's getting bigger and bigger, you then have to also look at it how it's impacting the economy. You got people probably coming in, getting hotel rooms, everybody probably going out to eat. Why isn't the city and the county doing something? If it's nothing other than saying, hey, I'm the mayor of this city, I'm gonna give y'all $2,500 toward, this event to help make it better. That's how you empower your community. I mean, am I wrong?
No, I know you're right. I know you're right. And I agree.
You want to keep drawing people to the city, and so incentives like that can help. The car show that they had, big event. We all know that cars is a big thing for the city of Jackson. I was a drag racer coming up. I was one of the victims. Well, not victim. I was one of the ones committing wrongdoing coming off of Watkins Drive flying. But that how much of an impact that is for Jackson. Why haven't we gotten in a room and created a drag racing strip in the city of Jackson to generate revenue? I'm not understanding why we're not picking up on these things, and we expect people here to just find ways to. They're racing in the streets because they don't have anywhere to go. They've showed you that that's something they enjoy. Why haven't we created a drag strip?
Well, you would think that they got the junkyard up in Madison County.
Absolutely.
And everybody.
Mr. Smith been making money a long time. Salute Mr. James Smith.
Mr. James Smith up in Madison County with the junkyard drag strip.
Exactly.
And our folk have to take their cars up there, and our young kids have to travel all the way up there just to race their cars.
Yep. Have to travel to the junkyard. We got to go to Beale Street, Bourbon Street to have fun because we're not willing to come together and create ways to make our own city jump.
And we're talking about the Ferry Streets and the entertainment districts and the all of the zoo. We're talking about all of the kind of things that could be economically empowering.
That's right.
Our community we leave on the table. Marcus, we got I-55 and I-20 that intersects right in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yep.
Why aren't we a transportation hub, one of the largest in the world, when we have 2 major interstates that intersect right in our city?
I don't understand it. My children ask me all the time, Daddy, why you still there? And they don't understand. I have hope that one day we're gonna get it right, man.
Well, Marcus, I have hope that we're gonna do that too. But I told my brother that not to worry about anything. I said the Lord is gonna help you out, and he said, well, he said he was in a fight with a bear, and I told him the Lord's gonna help him. He said, well, the Lord may be busy that day. So I'm going to scrap like hell. I'm going to do everything I can do to whip this bear's ass till the Lord can get to me.
That's right.
And so you are here doing everything you can do. You're scrapping with the bear.
Man.
And that help's on the way.
Yep.
It's got to be on the way, Marcus, because you put in the work.
Oh, yeah. Help is definitely on the way. And I think I hope that the listening audience, I hope people in this community, and I really believe it because, we've been doing this for about 3 months now.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say wherever I go, people, man, I like y'all show. I like what you're doing because, like I said, we're not bashing anybody. We're actually trying to take some numbers and statistics and see how we can help make a change. And so I really think that help is on the way. We've had to swallow some tough pills, and I think we're gonna swallow a few more. But things like this panel discussion, all we're doing is trying to get everybody in one room and try to come out of there with some solutions.
Marcus, it's been a great show.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that our viewers out there appreciate what we're doing. I was looking at the internet today, and I looked at economics, and one of the things that I saw was all of the shows that deal with Black economics all across the country. And Marcus, one of the shows that I saw there was Economically Empowering Our Community with you and I.
Awesome.
It's listed right there with the rest of everybody that's talking about this same issue. And so people are watching, people are paying attention. And if we can hold out, if we can just sustain ourselves until time comes when we get the right support and the right help from all of those that should be leading this struggle. And we're talking about the ones we sent into office. Because we send you into office for one specific purpose, that is to control the economy, to make absolutely certain that those that put in the till are the ones that are receiving opportunity from their investment. That means anybody that has a business in Jackson and paying all these high taxes, you got to make certain that they have opportunities coming back, whether you like their politics or not. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than you individually. It's bigger than me individually. We're talking about how you build a community where it has the highest quality of life that our citizens can afford. Until we get that, we're going to have to keep beating this drum.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we end the show, I want to challenge our listening audience. Of course, you know, we children are headed back to school this week, and I just want to challenge everybody that's able. I know it's, you know, tough times for a lot of people, but you know, if you could go by and pick up 5 sets of uniforms, 5 shirts and 5 pair of pants, and just take it to any random elementary school or middle school. There are a lot of children out here who miss a lot of days of school because they don't have enough uniforms. A lot of children come to school with dirty uniforms. And, you know, this is also why we should be advocating for teacher raises every day, not every year, because they have to go through so much. You have teachers who are even washing children's clothes at school or taking them home and washing them, I would say, and bringing them back. But if you're able to, and I challenge you, just stop by. You know, the uniforms are not expensive at all. I think you can get shirt and pants like $4 or $5 a piece or something like that. But if you can, just drop a set of 5 off to a school and just let the principal know that you wanted to, you know, give them a little inventory of clothing for some of the kids who may not have enough uniforms.
A hungry child cannot learn.
That's right.
And a child that does not have what is required, food, shelter, family stuff in place, is destined to a poor quality of life. Right. Marcus, I appreciate you for saying that. Until next week, y'all stay tuned and be safe.
Good night.